The central banks, there are 147 of them. And the Federal Bank is one, the Bank of England is one. They are privately owned. The Bank of England is privately owned. And they print money. They're allowed to print money. And they print money only in an emergency, because what they really want is the interest. They live off the interest. This is why they never really want the principal paid back. They just want the interest. This is why you got that subprime mortgage thing in America, and it's what happens. This is why they actually own countries. They own a third world country who've been sort of forced to borrow money, and all they can do is sell off all their assets in order to pay the interest. And meanwhile, this debt that they owe, they can never pay it back. And so the country is actually owned by the central bank. If you forget climate change, it is the most terrible, terrible system, because it causes poverty, and the poor get poorer and poorer, and the rich get fewer. And so the logic of this, if you take it to its logical conclusion, is that it ends in total poverty, because people will be there'll be no market left to sell to, will there? Everybody will be either too poor or dead. So it's the most terrible, terrible system. And this is what the politicians serve. It's done by the monopolies who wreck the planet. And the politicians help the monopolies, and they help the central banks. Then the company that's doing the mining has got more rights than the country that gave them the contract, because you cannot stop them earning their living. You cannot take the bread out of their mouth, these great companies. They're treated just as if they're a person. And so if they happen to poison your water and you want to sue them, well, then you're not allowed to sue them, because they've got the right to poison your water, because nobody can stop them from doing what they've been contracted to be allowed to do. Because we are in ultimate danger of mass extinction. And we're actually not even really talking about it. Of course, you get one or two articles in the paper. I'm very extreme. Nobody, even the activists, don't stand in front of you and say, we face mass extinction, because they say, oh no, we can't do that. We'll worry people. They won't listen to us or whatever. It's absolutely crazy that this is the truth. What I want to say is, what can you do about it? There's a big demonstration happening on the 29th of November in London. We hope it's big. We hope 1 million people come. If it rains, I don't know what will happen. But I don't know, they're expecting 100,000 at least. I really don't know, but because people don't demonstrate too much anymore. We could discuss why they don't demonstrate anymore. It's very interesting, because people are more aware than they used to be, and yet they don't demonstrate. But I won't go into it. It's something as well to do with the social media and people communicating in a different way. Anyway, so there's a very big demonstration. It's called the People's March for Climate Justice and Jobs. And I interpret that, it's against austerity, it's against TTIP, and I interpret it as a green economy. We need a green economy, because climate justice, if you did try to have climate justice, the result, it would have to be a green economy. The only way you're going to get climate justice is to have a green economy. And if we had a green economy, we would have jobs for everybody who wanted to work, because we would have different values. We'd have more school teachers, probably less bankers. Probably we wouldn't pay football players the amount of money they get. We might pay cleaners more money. We would have just proper pay for people according to their value. It would not be a communist society. It would be a free society. but it would not have free market capitalism. It would not have that. So the best and most wonderful contact I had recently was Paul Watson. Paul Watson began Greenpeace at the same time. He was a co-founder of Greenpeace, and he split off from Greenpeace because he was actually even more extreme, you know, standing in front of the harpoon and not letting them kill the whales, and he's not scared of anything. He was on a ship, marooned for 17 months in international waters because he's wanted, first of all by the Japanese and by Interpol, because he's been stopping people from killing the whales and protecting endangered species and catching illegal fishermen. And his organisation, they've got more ships than Greenpeace, and they're called Sea Shepherd. And he's got political asylum in France at the moment. He lives in Paris. And so he's very engaged in trying to get this thing in the beginning of December, this meeting of people who are going to try to save the world. And he said to me, the sea gives us 80% of everything we need, 80% of the oxygen, sequesters 80% of the carbon dioxide, and it also cleans up all our waste, except at the moment it can only deal with 50% of that waste because we're wasting too much. But it just shows that if you did regenerate the sea, you would be able to save the planet. And he said that every creature on this earth gives and takes in this cycle except us. We're the only ones that simply take. Now, this is something I read in Matthew Arnold's Culture and Anarchy. He said, this is his definition, culture is the pursuit, because I don't think we've got culture, I think we've had consumption, and I think this is a big problem. They're one is the enemy of the other. Anyway, so, right, and so his definition of culture was, culture is the pursuit of our perfection by means of getting to know everything that has been said and thought in the world, and through this knowledge, casting a stream of free and fresh thought upon all our stock notions and habits. And what that means, obviously, is that if we understand the past, especially through art, we know the world, we can mirror the world, and we can look to the future, and we can criticize the world we live in on the level of, is something good in the world now that's better than it used to be? Is something worse in the world than it used to be? What can we learn from the past? And don't ever let's forget that the world has forgotten more than it knows. There's no such thing as progress in art. There's only possible progress in the art of living.